Oh, da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. It's so easy to just let myself off the hook, and yet it is not because it's not letting me off the hook when I'm not showing up. I want to show up. And even though this phase of this project of 54 words is complete, right? This is a podcast that I have been doing for years now. I think now it's been about a year here on YouTube that I've had this show. What's my good cheer? But what's my good cheer? I've actually brought from another platform in practicing my craft, and it's not too hard even in the practicing, right? I am just making a little bit of movement for myself, right? Having the understandings and the beliefs that are kind of like the street lamps showing me the direction that I'm going in. Also, understanding that I am going in directions that other people, maybe in this moment, might not be going in the same direction, but possibly, right? It sure would be nice to cross you guys, right? Come across you guys down on that path that I'm moving on, and then possibly that we can kind of walk the path. I know it sounds corny, but walk the path together for a little while. It's how we make friends. It's how we build alliances, right? Those partnerships, those other souls that are making their own movement that hold lessons that possibly we have never considered. I can't go back into my life and have a regret for any of those relationships that have played a role in my life. And, I haven't had a lot of relationships. And I'm not just talking romantic relationships, but for me, for the most part, I had a lot of close male friends, but singularly in at a time. You know what I mean? Like I had those groups that I belonged to, but those friendships that I relied on, and those friendships that relied on me, they were pretty few and far between in all truth. And so I'm not going to regret any one of those relationships because they came across my path for a reason. And in the past few recent years, as I'm making a little bit of movement, taking in some lessons, being a student, being a spectator, that I've also been my own teacher my entire life and never gotten any of the answers for, and just been put into a position that I have to accept it is what it is. And then all of a sudden, stumble onto something that shines light onto something that has stumped me, or maybe not just stumped me, but stumped me, like truly became a hindrance in my life. And I've had lots of those, right? I've had lots of those, but those accidental lessons in that wanting to feel like I belonged, wanting to feel like I was cool, right? I was hanging out with the cool kids. It wasn't enough for me just to, right? Just to settle. I wanted to have those experiences that I thought that unless I just made those moves myself, that day in the sun, that moment in time would just be gone. And so when those opportunities came across my path to make a new introduction or to show myself well, or to possibly, right, see a potential in somebody else that, right, I wanted to have that rub off on me. I pursued it, right? Now in my old age, old age, I don't feel it, you guys. You would never know it the way I was hacking away at it today. My day off, and I could have just totally slacked, and anybody would have given me, right, the credit to do so. But I've got a trip coming up, and I was hitting it like one project after the next, and I'm going to bed tonight. I think almost ready. I have a little grocery list of last minute things that I've got to pick up before I leave town. I have a little list to make of some of the lessons or some of the conversations that I would like to have, knowing full well that in the moment I am going to be inspired and just, right, hit that, not go live, not while I'm on the road, I won't be live, but I will be filming constantly. I'm keeping company with myself. This is a trip for me to do some heavy contemplation, have some relax, recoup time in that telluric energy, that telluric current that is like a zap of life to me. It's a big part of this trip that I take every year, and I'm not even fibbing when I say that it's re-energizing. No idea. Just packing and getting ready for this trip is totally physically exhausting. It's fun, right? It's fun. And in those moments of getting ready, there are those small worries that pop up. Not stresses. Stresses are the killer. Worries, worries are just the compulsions, the double checking, right? And and right, it could only serve me well to double check what I'm doing, that I don't forget. I was almost complete with what I was doing, and then I realized I didn't pack any kites. I can't go on this trip without a kite. So I took my new dragon kite. I've only flown it once, and I put it in the pile here. And I think technically, besides, like I said, those few groceries and some compostable garbage bags for those few pit stops that I make, and right, clean up a messy rest stop. That, right, it's the scenic view on my trip, and it's a mar on the trip, but at the same time, it's kind of a pride in that trip because I just don't look at it and go, oh, what a mess. No, I pull out the garbage bags. I go, oh, what a mess, right? I do a little bit of whistling while I work, and proud of myself in the end that I made, right? I just didn't go, oh, what a mess, and carry on, that I actually did something about it, right? So I thought tonight when I was coming in, I says, well, we did just kind of finish off this phase of these 54 powerful words. We're not done yet, but we're kind of sort of done for the next few weeks or to a month before we start moving into something else. I'm still going to show up here, but the topics will change. And who knows, in changing those topics, right? It's still mindset, it's still, understanding emotions, it's still movement forward, it's still evolution, motivation, inspiration. It's still all of that. But at the same time, right, it's an opportunity to test some different waters out, test some different conversations, maybe not even necessarily conversations that I've had, or I'm having with myself. But maybe I'm inspired because there is so much great insight online right now. I kind of had a little of my fill, right, of Jordan Peterson. He was getting himself in trouble, but you have to understand we go through these experiences and they dramatically change us. And when society out there is used to seeing us a certain way, and then, it's almost like you wake up one morning and somebody has totally changed their entire persona, right? We want those old characters back because that's what's familiar to us and we love the familiar. So I gave Jordan Peterson a little bit of a break so he could deal with what he had to deal with. And, it's never goodbye, but at the same time, I was recognizing that I was avoiding anything that was really being suggested to him, right? Or suggested of him. Today, right? It just moved into the next video after I finished the lesson. It happened to be Jordan Peterson, and I was doing the dishes or something. So I just let it play in the background, and then I had to stop washing the dishes, and I had to come and sit in my chair and take in a lesson from Jordan Peterson because he was so bang on. He's a little bit in that tough love, right? He wants to trigger you and make you really take a look at what you're doing and what you're moving into, and right, kind of jiggle things around that maybe you might be inspired to, right, not be so draggy in our heels in the dirt. Lots of us are. I was that. Well, I'm not sure if I was ever that person because I've always been adventurous and curious and right up for a new adventure, especially if it wasn't going to cost me too much, right? It's how I started my YouTube channel, right? I was out on the road anyway. It was how I was calming my system down. I would go off for these country drives, but as I was doing these country drives, I would explore things. I'd walk through farm fields and I would explore abandoned farms and abandoned houses and abandoned schoolhouses and abandoned churches, one rooms. Like it was so much fun, and I was all by myself. Again, that telluric current, right? Being out in Mother Nature, connecting with myself. It's kind of like what jiggled things around and gave me a little bit different perspective that helped me to move, I think, right. I do believe in the right direction, and I could have easily have been stunted in my thoughts. But then I'm just saying that I'm thinking, I don't know, Cindy, right? Because even in that exploring, right, in that adapting and conquering and finding ways to calm my system down, because I was stressed. I was a compulsive gambler, and being out in Mother Nature, being out on the road, I wasn't catering to those compulsions, and at the same time, I was de stressing through the worry and the stress. I'm not going to say maybe it was worry, but I think mostly at that point it had come to just total stress. Today I was inspired. I wrote down I wanted to do a little bit of wire untangling on the differences between stress and worry. And there are big differences in those words. But I thought, what a great topic, right? Stress versus worry, right? And how one puts you into the other because they both trigger you that way and they both can throw you. You could be thrown into worry, you could be thrown into the stress, but it's the stress that causes the physical ailments, right? The worry, the worry is just a compulsion. It's right. It's put there from caveman days, right? The stress is something that totally envelops us, and right, you're not worrying about anything because you really can't think of anything when you're under that stress, right? When you're under that stress, it's kind of like a stupid panic, right? Because that's all that it is just a panic and a fear, and that's not good for the system. So I was talking about Mother Nature, right? And how um, I stumbled on to the content for my YouTube channel by doing something that was helping me to cope with the existence that I was living in the moment. Right? I was only living in the moment, even though that moment was 20 years. 20 years. But it was 20 years of unnecessary stress. Right? I allowed my worry, and I allowed my what is it? I allowed my compulsions and my need to calm my system down, right? Put me in that position. I have not gambled in over 4 years now. I'm so proud of myself. It's a biggie. It's a biggie. Lots of people they have. Everybody has handicaps, right? Coping mechanisms. But it's in the choice of how much we need, right? That will dictate what these addictions are gonna look like and feel like in their impact in our lives, right? They're meant to calm the system down, right? Even the bad ones, right? And they're all technically bad, right? Even over exercising can be bad. Overextending your attention on your well-being and compulse I was gonna pick up my vitamin pills, but I cleaned my desk up so I don't have all my vitamins on my counter. But I am grateful for my good health, right? I pay attention, and it's periodic, right? Because lots of times I take those breaks from the vitamins, but with this trip coming up, I want to feel good in that. I really want to experience that. Right? 14 days on the road. I washed my mattress cover today for the bed, did up all the laundry, did some more packing all behind me here. A little bit organized. Utilized that new that I had yesterday, made a bigger garage because I do have my road safety, my survival bag. Road safety, it's just not road safety, it's a survival bag. It's a medical survival bag and an actual survival bag. If something should happen, I should be able to take care of myself pretty good. Thought I would just pop in, right? And just talk about this project that we just, right, finished the first stage of. But I ended up yapping about something else. I don't think anything less important because, whatever I come to these platforms with, I'm coming in genuinely, and I'm right, and I just let it fly. It's coming through the experiences in my life, in my childhood, my young adulthood, right, my mature years. Some of those are the experiences that I had with some of those amazing characters that I can't ever regret knowing because they impacted me and they kept me in the right directions by being those street beacons for me, right? I would never, right, look at somebody and say, in their heaviness, I can't be around them, right? I chose them because I needed somebody, because they made me feel welcomed, they made me feel seen, they made me feel heard, right? And in that, it gave me an opportunity, possibly, to calm my system in that relationship that I was building and holding on to, right? Like I said, for me, I only just needed that one type relationship. This is the first time in my life that I'm kind of dangling. You guys know I don't like the dangling heights, right? Because I'm doing okay in that. 100%, I'm doing a lot better than I ever thought that I might have because I've always had that one codependent relationship, that relationship that I could trust and build in and be accepted in, right? And I was blinded in some of those relationships. I still can't say that I regret any of them because there were big, big lessons, and I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't recognized those lessons and moved towards them or moved away from them, depending on the lesson that I was in. And I've had to do many, many of both. And I think lots of people, as they move into their own lessons, they're going to recognize how many lessons they've actually done. I don't feel like I got slammed with that many lessons, but that's only because of the baby steps. That's because I'm doing this every day, like every day, even if it's just a little bit, and it's usually not a little bit. I'm a little bit of a greedy grabber when it comes to that information, right? But I'm making up for lost time. That's the way I'm looking at it, right? And it's working for me. And I'm still smiling through this. I'm still enjoying this. And I tell you, right? Some of these topics are heavy. This is my day off, right? But at the end of the night, like you hear me say all the time, it's in that accomplishment that I feel good, that I feel happy, that I feel a little bit safer and a little bit more in control of my own life. And I'd have to say, that's pretty amazing. And that's something I would wish for everybody because, I'm out there, I'm watching, and I see that's not always the case for everybody, right? Could be. It could be. Those answers are out there 100%. And if I could do it at 62 years old, anybody can. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. I'm going to finish my cup of coffee. I'm in my pajamas already. Just a matter of shutting the day down. Next week, we are going to see if we can get to bed by 10 o'clock each night. It'll be a challenge because I notice, especially in the past few months, that I have been staying up past 12 o'clock. My own fault and my own choices, right? Because I don't go to bed until that day is complete. And I happen to come in, right? Right when I think the day is almost complete, that my life is the icing, that big thing at the end of the night, that little bit of accomplishment that makes me smile, makes me go to bed knowing, right? I did good. Okay, you guys. That's my good chair.